Good morning, beautiful Cryptopians. This is Tyler West at the Crytopian Lounge, where we discuss all the whys and the wherefores of crypto. It's been one of my favorite subjects for many years now. I've got a special guest on for us today. You've seen him before. Today we're discussing the power of crypto to equip you to become your own bank. The big promise of crypto is the democratization of capital. And in short, that means how to be your own bank. On today's podcast, we're going to explore some of the ways you can wash your hands of the dirty fiat banking system and prepare to participate in the parallel economy that crypto offers to introduce us. Central banking institutions hate this. They've had a functional monopoly over the creation of money for hundreds of years, if not more. And wars have been started over who has control of the monetary printing press. Why would they love a bunch of radical upstarts to try to pry away this power from them? In yesterday's news, and for the umpteenth time, China says that all crypto-related transactions are illegal now and must be banned. If you haven't seen this movie before, China has officially banned cryptocurrency, like, I want to say twice a year for at least the last 6 years or so. Just a word to the wise, China, you can only ban something once. Afterwards, you're just admitting you couldn't. So does anyone really think China wants to sit out the revolution in decentralized payment architecture? That's not what their commercial investments show. That's not what their forays into crypto or their recent banking defaults demonstrate. But they, like all central banks, would love for you, the little men and women, to sit out a while longer so they can introduce their answer to free market crypto in the form of central bank digital currencies. To really understand crypto, you need to understand fiat. The value of the dollar is declining day by day, and the fiat sitting in your bank loses approximately 12% of its purchasing power every year. That's a conservative estimate right now. The reasons for this are numerous, but it goes something like this. Fiat isn't backed by anything valuable or useful. It's backed by the full faith and credit of the United States. It says there right on your legal tender. What do you think happens when the faith and credit of the United States evaporates? Exactly. So does the value of the fiat. So they, meaning the Federal Reserve and other central banking institutions, can print as much fiat as they want. They mint currency on a whim with limited constraints, except those distortions created by their own system. The Federal Reserve's mission is 100% employment, not the welfare of our nation. Meaning its actual mission is to capture you and to imprison you into their debt-based system. If you're aware of the other mandate of the Federal Reserve, you'll see that it supports this mission elegantly. A fiat monetary system is based on the unsustainable notion of infinite growth in this age that we live in, which on a finite planet is really just a drive towards infinite debt and a permanent servitude to the banking monopolies. One of the greater promises of crypto within the rubric of being your own bank is that crypto is functionally unbannable, except in the mind of its users. This is where you get a lot of the misinformation, disinformation, and hype about crypto in the media. A lot of what you see going on there, a lot of what you see people like Elon Musk saying, goes back to them manipulating your mind to stay out of crypto, sit this one out, and give the financial elites a head start on you. So here, I'm going to bring in a special guest. He's going to go into the reasons um, why and how you can start to act like your own bank using crypto and participate in this parallel economy that's being booted up and that has been being booted up for the past several years. Here's my friend and accomplice, Michael Scafidi. Hey,
Hello.
welcome on.
How's it going?
Good. Very good.
Good. Very
Enjoying
nice
this
intro.
beautiful Saturday?
Yeah, it's gorgeous out. I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully the fires that are happening around Reading, the winds don't blow in this direction here in the valley, but
Oh,
that might be
yeah.
wishful thinking. But for now, it's pretty nice.
We had a fire up here some weeks ago, close to where I'm located at the moment, and yeah, the skies were pretty dusky.
Yeah, it's kind of the new norm, and
Hmm.
I'm also hearing about lack of rain this winter and fall, so that can't be good for us. But anyway,
No,
back to crypto. It all is actually relative.
it is. Yeah, as I
um,
think we might suss out some of those details in this conversation.
Maybe.
So, how does blockchain play a role in solving so many banking issues and even societal problems outside of banking?
Yeah, so you really touched up on it in your intro there. Basically, what it boils down to is what are the central banks? What are banks? They're really just a collective, centralized location of trust where you and I will put our money, we put uh, our money, our hard-earned money with them. They own it, and then they loan it out to people in the form of debt, issuing debt. And the central bank is does the same thing. Actually, they do the same thing now, but really they control the printing press and the interest rates, and that's the difference between a central bank and a typical traditional bank. So to answer your question, the word central is key there. And so to really what blockchain is inherently decentralized. There is no central location for Bitcoin. You could have, Satoshi Nakamoto allegedly owns over 1 million coins himself. Michael Saylor has over 100,000 with his group MicroStrategy. So yes, there's some concentrated places for Bitcoin, but overall the network as a whole is decentralized. There's no central location that makes rules for it and can't corrupt it. Really, is really what it boils down to. I mean, even to some degree, gold doesn't behave this way. Gold can be decentralized because you can't print it. That's the part that makes it decentralized. But what makes gold centralized is Fort Knox, or any big central bank that has a vault with a lot of it in it. So that's kind of how that nature. If you understand that, that is really what makes this such a liberating technology.
You made a point about how there are still concentrations of Bitcoin. Um, so, how is that different from, say, a central banking monetary system?
Well, there's a lot of theories that Fort Knox actually doesn't have anything in it. But the thing about Bitcoin is we actually see Satoshi's early addresses, because he was part of he mined the first block, so we know those addresses, and we know he's got a bunch of different wallets. Um, and then there's some that are hypothesized to be his. But everybody can go online and go onto the blockchain and see what's going on with that wallet. What kind of transactions is he doing? And we know that in over 10 years, he hasn't really touched it, which is a little bizarre, right? The guy is he's one of the richest guys in the world, and he hasn't even touched it. But the transparency is there. Everybody could see what's going on. It's not, I mean, there are some coins where that are privacy coins. You can't see what's going on, but Bitcoin's not one of them. And so we know that there is X amount of coins in this wallet because we could see it. We know that there's activity that's going on with this wallet. We think it belongs to Satoshi Nakamoto, so we know that that value is there.
Even
Nobody's
if we don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto's real identity is,
correct.
we know where his address is because that's where the million plus coins were reserved
Exactly.
when the blockchain when the Bitcoin blockchain started.
Yeah.
And another thing that he did, which was really interesting, besides staying anonymous, great idea, was that he he published to the programming circles that he was going to start mining. So everybody had the same green light to start mining
That's
Bitcoin.
right. Yep.
The same green light that he gave himself.
Yep. He wasn't anybody special. He mined it the way you and I would do it on our laptop. Of course, things have changed, and we probably don't want to go down the technical aspect of it now. But mining today on a laptop is not going to yield you very much Bitcoin at all. Than mining back in 2009 when he started it. So
Now,
but
uh,
yes, he did it legitimately based on the program. And so really what it shows is that it's a fair game. It's a fair game for anybody, whereas we know that fiat based money system has never been fair. It's
how can it be when somebody's got a monopoly on the printing press?
exactly. Yes, exactly. And so
Now that brings up another key feature of Bitcoin, which is important for people to understand who are trying to wrap their mind around crypto. Um, we live in a we live in an inflationary fiat system that also happens to be debt based because of the inflation there. So Bitcoin is not inflationary.
correct. It's deflationary. Yes, it
And why
basically
is that?
for so there's a maximum of 21 million coins for anybody that doesn't know, and every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that you mine it actually is cut in half. So, for example, there's a certain amount of Bitcoin that you can mine from the year 2009 all the way, I think, through 2011, where the first halving began, or maybe it's 2010. So every 4 years, the halving cycle, the network rewards a certain amount of Bitcoin per day. I believe now it's
To miners.
to miners, and every 4 years it gets less and less. So you can imagine you keep going half and half and half. Right
Right.
now we're at almost 19 million coins. It's less than 19 million coins that have been mined, but between now 2021 and the year 2140 is when the rest of that 2 million is going to be mined. And I think 2136 through 2140, there's only just a few Bitcoin in those 4 years that are going to be mined throughout.
I think what that means is that the lion's share of the rewards for mining went to those who built the network
Yes.
first,
Yes.
and now that the network is built and self-sustainable, the rewards have been lessened proportionate to what's left out of the 21 million bitcoins that will ever be issued, and that explains why it's a deflationary money or store of value.
Right.
If you've got more and more people who want to hold a finite supply of something, well, it's simple supply and demand. That supply of whatever it is going to become more valuable.
Yeah, and that's it. And you compare that to our fiat-based system, which really began when the Federal Reserve, was enacted over 100 years ago, and since then we've had a massively inflationary um, expansion. And then there was Bretton Woods, which made the U.S. dollar the world's reserve currency. Then they took the dollar off of the gold standard in the 70s, and since then it's just gone parabolic. Um, and there doesn't seem to be any stop to it. In fact, that's one of the things that I'm still trying to wrap my head around, is that although I'm very much all in cryptocurrency, you have to be careful. Anybody that's doing something like that, because Bitcoin is still very young. It was born in 2009. And if you look at the history, we've had the most massive debt expansion following the 2008 crisis to where we are now. And we haven't really experienced a fiat based deflationary cycle, or I should say, blockchain and Bitcoin has not experienced that yet. And so I'm still sort of waiting to see how to play that. But I'm using that in the way I invest in crypto, because we have stuff, we have stable coins now. The stable coins don't go up and down in volatility.
Yeah.
They
And
remain.
I just want to, it's not a huge deal, but I don't like to say investing in crypto,
Right.
because that exposes you to all kinds of regulations that the the FTC
Mhm.
and all them want to eventually apply to those of us who are embracing crypto. Um, you don't want to invest in crypto unless you're day trading for real.
Yes.
You want to buy crypto, and if it goes up or down in value, that's not really any of your concern, right?
Yes, yes, and that is essentially what I do. I think I did do a little bit of trading some years ago, and it was just not productive. It was so volatile. I think
Yeah.
I was in my late 20s, and I started getting gray hairs. I was like, okay, no, this isn't working.
This isn't what I want to do with my life.
Yeah, exactly. So since then, I've sort of evolved in my understanding, and you're right. Investing is not the best word. It's really just like a new way of doing things, a new way of living and operating in this economy.
And we're going to get into some practical steps that people can take to do that for themselves soon. Um, Before we do that, I want to talk about another key feature of Bitcoin and most cryptos, and that's privacy and the ability to transact anonymously. Because we're coming out of a system that can more or less keep track of all of your expenses. Whatever you buy, it's on a bank record somewhere. Those bank record, the wall between the banks and the federal government is it is perforated with all kinds of back doors and holes. So why would it be to the general consumer's advantage to be able to transact anonymously?
Oh wow, for many reasons. One, it's just personal freedom and autonomy. Um, but there's blockchain can provide that too. It could provide transparency, and it could provide privacy. So for privacy, it's so important for people to feel secure about the purchases that they make. They don't want to have to be subject to I mean, imagine you did something that everybody does something they regret, especially when they're young. And imagine you have a record of that for the rest of your life, you know, or like somebody, videotapes you doing something, and it's very embarrassing. You have to live with that for the rest of your life. I mean, that's, I guess, the world we live in. But that's essentially what it's like too. I mean, you make a purchase that is then going to be on record for the rest of your life. It really puts a dampening on personal freedom, and in my opinion, it's kind of goes against a lot of the principles. So I think they're thinking things up a little bit, but on the flip side of that coin, there's way that transparency can work. So, for example, Michael Saylor. I was actually watching a video. If anybody doesn't know Michael Saylor, he's a billionaire. He is a big time Bitcoin bull. He was talking about how he's got this Twitter, and there are these bots that are responding to his tweets, and he knows they're bots because he's reading them through. He's like, oh, a person wouldn't write that. But then some people that are writing, he's like, wait, are you a bot? So he was saying that blockchain could actually be used to verify your identity. And so that we know that that's not a bot. No, that's actually a real person. Okay, I'm going to ignore all the bots and I'm going to talk to this guy.
Yeah.
or it could be used by Twitter to make sure that people have a verified account, so you are who you say you are, not just like some just a bot that's trying to get your spam out there to make money or to do some phishing scams out there.
Yeah.
So there's two ways of doing things here, but we could have it in a
I,
way where it verifies a person's identity, but then what that person does, we could say, okay, let's give that person their privacy and do it
I
autonomously.
think
And there,
it's hard for people to. I think. I think the idea that blockchain can be used to verify your identity and at the same time keep your identity private is a hard um, is a hard contrast for people to hold in their heads. And it's there's a lot of technical reasons why both of those things can be true, but the point is there's no single point of failure in a decentralized economy. Whereas with a bank, we have a mild run on the banks, and suddenly people can't get cash out of the ATM.
yeah, yeah, and that's the real world we live in, and really blockchain technology really solves a lot of these problems. I mean, we could be here talking about that for hours, from
Yeah.
the way we vote, the way we even run the country. I mean, imagine, we have a centralized Congress, right? We got a group of people that you and I elect to on our behalf that make decisions for us. But imagine we have a blockchain where it's just like, okay, we have this problem. People, what do you want to do? Do you want to vote yay or do you want to vote nay on this? There are certain issues with that too, but there's a way that we can have a parallel economy where a senator, says, people, my constituents in California, what do you think about this? I'm not going to care about my political party's preference. What do you want? And sometimes, we change our opinions. We're people, and we could say, well, we want this. Let's give this a try. He votes that way in Congress. So there's a lot of different ways that blockchain can really improve our current system. It just goes beyond cryptocurrency.
So, what are some of the signs that an alternative economy is needed?
Well, I mean, I think what this pandemic has done, forget the pandemic for a second, but the pandemic economy, I think a lot of people have that don't understand the economy. They know something's wrong, right? I mean, we we see our economy. We see a lot of places closed down. We want to go out and buy something. A lot of places closed down. Yet the stock market's at all-time highs, and it doesn't really make sense. And yeah, it's pretty much the only place where you can park your money now, is what they say. And this Federal Reserve will not allow it to go down because they're issuing debt, billions of dollars every month. They're issuing debt, and then for the people that are about to default, they're buying up that debt. So this is massively inflationary. So people go to the store and they see, an avocado which cost 99 cents a couple years ago is now selling for $1.99. They know that, wait, something just doesn't seem right. I mean, it's subtle, but I'm still gonna buy that avocado because I want to eat it. But they're like, but that costs double, and a lot of people are not doing very well. So, um,
I think you're right. The pandemic has exposed some of the vulnerabilities of a centralized um, everything from centralized distribution systems, centralized um, um, like materials. You know, a, a lot of these materials that make their way into products, they come from only one of a couple spots in the world. Look at Taiwan. Okay, we have a shortage of wafers. We have a shortage of computer chips looming over us in the distance, based on what happens at Taiwan, because they're one of the primary um, manufacturers of these wafers and chips. So we've got that looming over us. We have seen that banks and payment processing companies can arbitrarily cut off people from transacting with the takedown of certain people's PayPal accounts, even GoFundMe accounts get shut down, highly successful ones at that. So, do we really want to be at the mercy of the um, banking institutions to live? I mean, that's not being able to receive payments basically makes you unable to live.
Yeah, and that is one way of looking at it. I mean, the future is still going to need rules. It's still going to need laws. We're still going to need police. We're still going to need firefighters. We're still going to need military. But the way in which that there's so many ways in which those processes, those people, and those professions are going to be directed. And blockchain really is the decentralization can really help improve our system. You made some pretty good examples right there to describe how, and it really ultimately goes down to personal freedom and personal autonomy, in my opinion. And we could see this fiat-based system. It's collapsing before everybody's eyes. I mean, they don't see it directly. You don't even have to be an economist to understand it, but I think most people know something's wrong. And so the question becomes is what this is what I don't know. Are they going to allow deflation in the fiat system? Because we got a glimpse of that in 2020 when it started happening, when they started locking the economy down. But then the Federal Reserve quickly came in and just started, you know, their printing press and just started buying up stocks for the first time and doing all these other things, and that lifted everything up. But at the same time, the economy sort of collapsed, and I think we're kind of still in collapse. But they're really they just figured out that all they have to do is just fudge the numbers. But they're doing it with debt, with issued debt. That's money that we're going to have to pay back at some point, and everybody's sort of beginning to read between the lines that this debt is never going to be paid back. So what do we do from here? And so I believe cryptocurrency is the answer. I believe it's right there for everybody to see. Decentralization. Let's let this fiat-based system roll out. Let's just leave it alone. Let's not start any wars to try and maintain it. Let's just keep printing. Let them do their thing, and then I think naturally people are going to migrate over to the crypto economy when they
I
see.
see that too. When they see the host of benefits that come with being able to just have alternatives
Mhm.
to fiat. Um, I think I think once people experience those benefits, they're not going to want to look back.
I mean, I'm already there, and I'm really excited to explain to you what I'm doing. But I'm pretty much all in, and I'm never gonna go back. I get a bird's eye point of view of our whole system, the way it functions, and I feel really sorry for people that have no idea that this exists, this technology exists, and I'm really excited to help people discover it. But I do feel sorry that for people that are still tied to this banking system.
And this comes from a place of experience. You've been putting into practice what people could do to take more sovereignty over their money um, for a couple of years now. And what are some of the highlights for you? What are some of the big ahas and really in practical steps that people can take?
Yeah, so cryptocurrency is not just buying a coin, waiting for it to go up 10x and selling it. Because really, all you're doing is you have to change your way of thinking. What are you doing? You're actually getting more fiat. So you're still committed to this fiat based system. But I am not. I've sort of gone beyond that, and I've given up on the fiat-based system. And the way I've done that is there are um, a lot of apps actually that are trying to become crypto banks. And so there is no such thing yet because Congress won't allow it. But there are banks that are working with cryptocurrency startups to be able to issue you and I with an account, and we can earn a reasonable rate of interest on that account. Right now, I'm using an app called Abra, where I'm earning 8% on my dollar deposits, and that dollar deposit is through a stable coin. The stable coins are many of them. There's USDC, there's Tether, but that's not US regulated. True USD, Pax USD, um, and so you could actually put your money, which is sitting in your bank right now, let's just call it $1,000, and you could put it into Abra, and you can earn a rate of 8% compounded interest. So basically, after a year, you should be able to you should have more than $1,080 at 8% interest. I mean, you compare that with your bank right now, which is more than likely paying everybody 0.15% interest, which when you factor in inflation, which is around 4 to 5% right now, is essentially a 4 to 5% tax. Uh, I mean, that's really the
You're
message.
still losing purchasing power.
You're losing purchasing power. At least when you're putting it into these crypto apps, you're earning money, right? But then people are like, okay, so I'm earning a 80 USD coin. It's not like I could go to the store and buy 80 USD coin, and it's just like, oh no, but you can.
Oh, but you can.
They
Okay,
have
this is where it gets good.
they have um, debit cards where you could spend your cryptocurrency into the real economy. And I use this. I've ditched my credit card now, and I only use this.
Use this exclusively. Wow.
It's basically accepted anywhere that Visa is accepted, which last I checked is pretty much everywhere.
And
so
these transactions, you need to go buy some groceries. Okay, you need to run down to the store and get some milk.
yes.
So you buy the milk using this debit card,
Yes.
and that transaction is taken out of your crypto holdings.
Specifically, the way I have, so this is Coinbase. So I explained to everybody that I have Abra where I earn the yield. You can't do that with Coinbase, but Coinbase does give me the bridge into the real economy. So what I do is, let's go back to my example of having $1,000 in Abra, right? Now where I'm earning interest. I could then take, after a year, I'll just say, that $80 that I have stored in there, I'm just going to take it and I'm going to send it to my Coinbase account. And I'm going to put specifically on USDC because that's what this card is. It accepts without any fees. You could spend your Bitcoin, you could spend other cryptos, but USDC, if you spend that, you have no fees, and you don't have to worry about the volatility of the coin. So I then transfer that interest to this account. I go to the store and I buy my milk, I buy my eggs, I buy my gas for my car, and I'm buying it with the interest that I earned in my Abra account. Now, a lot of people say, okay, well, where is Abra getting this money? And that's what people have to do their own research. I go with Abra because every Friday their CEO has a YouTube channel. He answers everybody's questions. He's answered my questions more than once. The way his business model works is that he works with a bank called Prime Trust. Abra does. And when you open up an Abra interest account, you're actually opening up an account with Prime Trust. And Prime Trust then takes that money and they, loan it out to hedge funds. They loan it out to entrepreneurs that want to get into the crypto space, that want to buy a mining rig, for example, that they can't go to Wells Fargo, Bank of America, because Bank of America would turn them away. The big banks they don't want any competition, and they're scared of crypto. So they go to, so Prime Trust has been able to basically say, hey, come with us, bring us your money, and we'll give you a return. And so the way that they make sure that these institutions, these hedge funds, and these people pay their loans without defaulting, they make sure they have the equal amount of collateral to back it up in case they've defaulted. So if they did default on the loans, they go after the collateral and they continue to pay us as interest account holders. And this, in my opinion, is actually more safe than our traditional system. It's not FDIC insured, which a lot of people will be like, oh, well, that's it. That's enough for me to not be in it. Yeah, but you have to think about that for a second, because banks are they're actually not. So it's your account is 250,000 up to $250,000 FDIC insured, but there isn't enough money in the FDIC to insure all the money in our system. They've already admitted that, and the big banks are allowed to spend money they don't have, but in the form of derivatives. But there are no derivatives with cryptocurrency. One US dollar in one USDC is always going to be one US dollar without a derivative. And so, in my opinion, and it's backed by the blockchain, in my opinion, it's a more secure system than anything these big banks could ever dream up. Now, uh, I'm obviously very much into it. I have 95% of my money into it. I'm earning interest. I'm spending that interest. I'm free as a bird, and I feel really bad for people that are having to see gas prices go up, avocados go up, and their wages are not going up, and so they're actually losing purchasing power. But this is a way that you can combat it yourself. You use the crypto technology. Um, yeah,
So you've explained how people can actually earn a yield by holding their cryptos and their money. They can even convert their fiat money to cryptos, but to hold their cryptos in a sort of pool like Abra and other similar companies, and and now with that increased bargaining power, Abra can go and make strategic investments in the crypto space. They can borrow against those assets, which is what it sounds like they do.
mm-hmm.
So they actually they secure their holdings by borrowing against them, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And they actually have a feature in the app that allows the user to do that too. You could actually borrow money against your crypto, and they will allow it.
Really start to become like their own bank, because this
That's
is what banks have
what
traditionally done.
Yeah, that's essentially what you're doing. You're becoming your own bank. It's so amazing, and like I said, I get to now be a part of that. And I'm looking back at the system. I see people withdrawing money from their ATMs. And don't get me wrong, I'm still doing that. I still have a checking account. I still have direct deposit going. But I think that's going to change. I think all of that's going to change once, crypto banks like Abra have checking and all that stuff and all those features. I'm pretty much going to kiss my big bank goodbye.
And you're already spending money in the real economy. You're spending crypto in the real economy.
I am spending, yes, crypto into the real economy.
Now, Coinbase card is perhaps the preeminent crypto debit card in the U.S., but there are more out there, aren't there?
Yeah, there are. There's quite a few actually. There's the crypto.com card. There's a Binance card, which is actually a pretty good one too. And then there's going to be more on the pipeline. Once Abra, the crypto bank I'm going with, once they get their own debit card, I will probably exclusively just move towards them, and probably not use this one anymore.
Okay.
Since I have most of my my money, my liquid money with them, anyways.
Now, Michael Saylor talks about accumulating enough crypto so that way you can live off the interest.
Yeah, I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm also not a billionaire, and I don't think
it's pretty easy to do when you're a billionaire.
Is. Yeah, so good for Michael Saylor, but yeah, essentially, I'm not living off the interest, but the interest is helping me out a lot. It is. It's essentially where inflation is kicking in and hitting these prices. With this technology, I'm actually beating inflation, so it's making it even more cheaper to me. And so that's why I feel really bad for people that have not discovered this yet.
Yeah.
Again, but there is, I don't want to get anybody, I'm not going to give out any investment advice here because I still don't understand how Bitcoin and other blockchains will behave if there is a fiat deflationary cycle like we experienced in 2008. Um, I don't think we're going to go there again. If that happened again, I think it would be so much worse than 2008. People are even saying it would be worse than the Great Depression. So I don't think any policymakers or I don't think anybody would.
So in wargaming this out, how would you see a deflationary fiat cycle
I mean,
coming into play?
the simplest is if the Federal Reserve stopped their 100 whatever it is, $100 billion a month, $80 billion a month of issuing debt through one door and buying it through the other door. If they stopped that and they raised interest rates, that would kill the economy immediately. That would be boom, done. Like um, a lot of these businesses and even corporations are relying on these low interest to get the money flowing, get the cheap, easy money flowing. But if that stopped, well, everybody suddenly contracts. They get protective, and the whole economy just sinks. Um, but right now they're keeping it alive by artificially keeping it alive, and so um, I don't think they're going to stop that. There's a lot of people that think they can and they will and they're going to have to, but they could keep this inflation ball rolling with crypto, and people can protect themselves with crypto, and that way the government does what it needs to do, and people can continue, protecting themselves with the cryptocurrency and not have to riot and
And people jump into crypto and, at different depths of the pool. I know that there's a lot of people that consider it a hedge against fiat and the inflation thereof. And then there's those of us who are, all in on it and try not to hold any fiat or as little fiat as possible.
yeah. Well, there's still going to be a need for fiat. Um, uh, we'll see how this evolves, but uh, so I have about 70% of my crypto holdings in USDC. That's money that doesn't move. It's pegged to the dollar. Yes, the dollar is getting devalued, but if it's getting devalued at 4 to 5% and I'm making 8% interest, that's actually still a benefit to stay into fiat. Now, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, I do have some. Um, that's the other 30%. They're volatile and they go up, they shoot up, and then they come back down. But
Can you denominate your expenditures on that card in any token other than USDC?
you can. The thing about the benefits of using USDC is that if you if you want to spend Bitcoin on this card, you can, but the Bitcoin is going to be converted automatically to USDC to make that purchase.
At
And so
whatever
then,
value the Bitcoin is that moment, right?
right, it's what the value is at that moment, and you're going to pay a conversion fee. It's not very much, but let's just say it's like 1%. So if you have $100 worth of Bitcoin that you want to
Mhm.
use, you're going to be paying $1 in the conversion fee. But you're still with this card, I should say, you're actually earning rewards by purchasing stuff with your crypto too. That's another amazing benefit of this.
What are the rewards like?
For this one in particular is 4%. You can get 4% back in Stellar Lumens, 4% back in Graph, 1% in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Dogecoin.
Is it all of the above or just one of those?
Just you get to choose one of them at a time. And honestly, I know people are like, "Oh, I'm just going to go with the 1% Ethereum or 1% Bitcoin," and I'm like, just go with the 4% Stellar, and then convert your Stellar into Bitcoin. You're still getting more because 4%. It's going to yield you more Bitcoin. It's anyways, that's a different topic, but up to 4%
You thought
reward.
this through pretty thoroughly.
Yeah. I'm trying to help people. um,
Does your wife or do any of your family members have a Coinbase card yet?
I've tried to recruit them, but I think this is all very overwhelming for them, and they just don't feel like they're in a place where they want to learn something new. And really, if you think about it, that's a good problem to have. But for people like that are going to be feeling the effects of inflation, that are going to be frustrated, they're going to start looking for all the other alternatives. They will. It's going to be inevitable because their well-being depends on it. And
Yeah.
so I think as more and more time goes by, as we start experiencing more and more inflation, and people realize they can't rely on their policymakers, they don't trust the big banks and the politicians. Um, I think there are going to be more people that are going to be gravitating towards this technology.
So this is really about becoming more self-reliant, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Self-reliant, secure. I mean, the fact that I have the majority of my money in this thing right here, I mean, and here's the thing. So people will say, well, if you lose your phone, you're going to lose all your funds. That's not true, because your crypto is backed up by most cryptos are backed up by a 12-digit passphrase that only you know. So if you can memorize that, or you have that written down someplace secure, you can lose this phone. Your home can blow up in flames. I hope that doesn't happen, but it seems to be a very real possibility for anybody living in California these days. And you don't have to lose everything. You could just go and activate a new phone. You remember your phrase, you type that in when you download the Abra app, and boom, there's your funds again. And it's all protected by the blockchain.
It's all in the name, crypto.
It's all in the name.
It's all
That's what it is.
encrypted.
Yeah.
Yeah, information to the naked human eye, it
Yeah.
looks like gobbledygook, but to the machine, readers, it it all makes sense,
Yeah.
and it can
And
keep track of things like what your 12-word seed phrase is,
yeah.
what um, you know. In the future, we're going to have a lot more smart contracts taking over from traditional paper contracts.
Mhm.
And the cool thing about these is they're self-executing in a lot of cases. You don't have to go to an arbitrator or mediator or court or some kind of intermediary to enforce the execution of the agreement. The code does it for you.
That's right. That's why they
So
call them smart contracts. Well, in
yeah.
the case of Ethereum, but
So if
yeah,
you want to get a loan, all you do is you create a smart contract for the loan. You can denominate that loan in um, a range of cryptocurrencies, and all the repayment terms, the principal and interest, everything is built right into the contract. Gets automatically taken out of your wallet, um, probably a wallet in some kind of escrow account.
mhm,
But yeah, I mean, the code itself has so much power to overtake um, things that we traditionally relied on human intermediaries to do for us.
mhm. Programmable money. It's the way of the future. It's um, a solution to so many problems that we have in our fiat monetary system.
Yeah.
And programmable money protected by the blockchain, and that's decentralized. It just really does not. You're not going to have a better. I mean, this is really the best um, money that human beings have ever invented. Um, and it's been the most empowering, self-empowering tool in my lifetime. I mean, I'd imagine in any human being's lifetime, really.
Yeah. And I want to echo your sentiment to not get left behind by this stuff. The lion's share of the rewards are going to accrue to the first adopters in this space. And um, we're nowhere near a saturation point where everybody is using crypto, transacting in crypto, buying their milk and eggs, and paying for their gas
Mm-hmm.
in their everyday life. So, don't wait. Get in now. Yeah, you have to learn some new concepts. There is
Mm-hmm.
a learning curve, but that's the price of self-reliance.
Exactly. Exactly. And to speak to that point, there are risks, right? We hear about that story of some business manager forgetting his seed phrase, his passphrase, and
Yeah.
he's got $100 million worth of Bitcoin locked up, and now that Bitcoin's lost forever. Yeah, that's terrifying to a lot of people. That's why you got to be responsible. You can write it down someplace, put it someplace safe. You could even engrave it in like a piece of metal so that it could never burn. Go outside in the wilderness someplace and bury it and know where it all. Just tell
And
where.
you've always got a backup copy.
Yeah, exactly. But there are ways around that. But yeah, it's this technology is going to be new. There's a lot of people that are not going to be able to understand it. But like I said, as this fiat monetary system, it's not going to die overnight, but it is dying. I mean, it's been dying for the last 100 years, and it's going to continue dying, according to a lot of the experts. So it's really going to. I think that's going to really push people into the technology. And it's going to force, it's going to be a kind of uncomfortable. Learning something new is always uncomfortable, but once you're in it, you're going to look back and you're going to see, you're going to
It's
be on.
very empowering.
Yeah, it's very much empowering.
And we're seeing governments embrace it more and more.
Hmm. Yeah. It still remains to be seen what, um, everybody, all eyes are on the United States, because the U.S. dollar is the world's reserve currency. Whatever the U.S. says goes, and I'm not pushing any political agenda. There are, uh, progressive people on both the Democrats and Republicans that want to see this advance, but then there are also dinosaurs that want to keep us on this old failing system. Um, and so they're on both parties, and so it should be interesting to see the way regulation comes about. But the more regulation, the more it's going to hurt crypto. The less regulation, the more it's going to, allow it to expand and do what it needs to do. So that's
I'm
a thing to keep an eye on.
I'm sure you're keeping an eye on what's going on in Miami, and even Wisconsin. You know, Wisconsin has the Cardano Summit
Oh, I
coming up.
didn't hear about that. Good for
Yeah.
them.
Or sorry, I said Wisconsin. I meant Wyoming.
Okay.
Wyoming is Wyoming's pretty ahead of the curve on its crypto policies. They've done some really interesting things to enable crypto to be able to flourish within that state, and it's become model legislation for other states. I would encourage you to look into it. Um,
They have a senator who I've been following. I forgot her name, but she was one of the progressive ones. Progressive in this technology, that is. Um, I forgot her name, but I was following. So it doesn't surprise me that, Wyoming would be one of the states that would support this. Good for them.
yeah, and Miami, they city. So what they're going to do, they haven't passed anything yet, to my knowledge, but what they're going to do is they're going to specific and they're going to make it so um, you don't have to basically pay taxes on the things that you buy using their city coin.
Interesting.
So now they're incentivizing you to use a locally based coin with savings on taxes. So it's an interesting reversal on the
Yeah,
punitive tax policies of governments in the past.
yeah, and it should be interesting, to see how the federal government responds to that. But,
Mm-hmm.
that is actually very interesting. I bet you it's going to help Miami in the long run to do that.
I do too. I
Any
think we're going to see
country.
more of it too. And as localities, as states, as regions, as localities take back their power, which is afforded to them in the Constitution, um, the country is going to become more decentralized just by its very nature. And I think that that is ultimately going to undermine the overreach and the power that we've come to expect from the federal government.
Yeah, I also don't expect them to just sit back on the sidelines. Um,
True.
and I don't. Same with the big banks. The big banks are very, very powerful. So it remains to be seen what they're going to do. I think, but they cannot kill this technology. It's decentralized. There's no way to kill it. But they could scare us and scare big, deep pockets to holding it, which could cause a significant price drop. And then there is a correlation between a price drop and then people like backing out of the technology. I'll just tell you this though: if the price does drop, I'm buying.
Yeah.
Buying no matter what, because I could see through all of this right here. But it will. They can impact adoption. They can't kill the technology, but they can impact how quickly it's adopted and who adopts it. So
And they use the lever of fear to do that.
yes, that's kind of like what you explained what China was doing. China's
Mhm.
banned Bitcoin 6 times, and you're right. You can only ban it once before you're in. It just doesn't work, and you're gonna have to keep banning it.
Yeah.
So
At some point, people are gonna realize that all the bannings don't add up to what.
yes,
It's code. Crypto is code. You can't stop code. It's gonna do what it's designed to do, and all they really do is try to cut it off at its, this is like exchanges, and and make you fearful that you're going to lose everything in
yep,
it.
yep,
So when I don't read any crypto news daily. Uh, the limited amount of news that does come across my desk, when they're saying it's time to be afraid, then I know, like you were suggesting, it's time to buy.
that's what I'm gonna do.
the,
Oh,
the
China's banning
reality
it.
is almost
Okay, let
always
me
the
buy.
opposite of the hype headlines, and it's worked out so far.
Yeah, it has.
Well, I thought this was a productive discussion. Is there any closing thoughts you have about how people can empower themselves by uh, looking into, embracing, and getting into crypto?
Yeah, if there's one thing that this interview has done, and I hope the key takeaway is that people look at this technology and understand it and embrace it for themselves, and be able to take a leap of faith. And I'm not telling people to buy Bitcoin and just sit on it and whatever. I'm telling people to really see, just take it seriously, because the inflation I don't think is going to get any better for people. Life is going to get a lot harder, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. And for people that are going to be experiencing inflation, we all are in the future. There is an alternative, and just when that time comes, just know that there is that alternative for them.
Mike and I love helping people wrap their minds around crypto and get into it at a practical level. If anybody would like to get some help from us, you can email us at info@cryptopian.org, and one of us will get in touch with you and see how we can help. So, Mike, it's been a really great conversation today. I look forward to our next one. Hope you enjoy the rest of this beautiful day we've got,
Mhm.
and we'll see you on the next episode.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Tyler. Always great talking to you.
Likewise. All right. Thanks, everybody.